Boys, we're looking at the hand cannon Rose today. Essentially, guys, after completing the Lumina Quest, Rose, which is the hand cannon that you started out with, can actually be pulled from your collections. And upon pulling it from your collections, it will have a ranged masterwork as well as a mod slot, allowing this weapon to go head-to-head against many of our Year 2 weapons. This is a 150 round per minute hand cannon located in the kinetic slot. And yes, it has some competition, especially against weapons like spare rations, which is also another 150 there, but even against things like Lumina, Thorn, Last Word, Ace of Spades, All-Stringer, you name it, boys. So can the hand cannon Rose compete? First up, let's take a look real quick at what's happening here on this weapon in terms of perks and traits. Again, intrinsically, this is a lightweight frame hand cannon. Superb handling, move faster with this weapon equipped. It's an extremely snappy hand cannon. Now, the first barrel perk is Chamber Compensator, increasing stability, as well as recoil control. It also comes with accurized rounds for that bump there in range, which is extremely nice, considering that is like the one thing working against most 150 round per minute hand cannons, is the lack of range on many of the rolls that you get. Now, the first trait here is Outlaw. Precision kills greatly decrease reload time. Normally a great trait to pair with things like Kill Clip, Rampage, Swashbuckler, any of your really heavy hitting, damage dealing perks. Outlaw is a phenomenal trait to pair with them. Now, the final trait here is Polymer Grip, which is actually just a grip perk. The weapon's grip is made of lighter material, which increases our handling speed. Essentially, instead of us getting an extra trait here on Rose, they just gave us plus 10 handling, which I find to be unnecessary. When we look at something like Polymer Grip, weapons like Jotun, Telesto also comes with the same grip perk, as it seems to be something present more on special weapons, especially those that have low handling. But even something like Thorn also has a grip perk. Sturm also has a grip perk. Last Word also has a grip perk. This is nothing new. The difference between Rose and its perk layout and those exotics is that those exotics have exotic intrinsic perks, meaning it already satisfies the double perk combo between the intrinsic perk and the trait. The issue with Rose is that it doesn't have that same layout. Its intrinsic perk, it's just your generic lightweight frame intrinsic perk. There's nothing here adding to this weapon in terms of lethality in its trait pool. The only thing that is really being added to this weapon is Outlaw, which is really unfortunate because I feel like Rose could have been easily a top tier hand cannon had it had something there in that final trait column instead of a grip perk, which is absolutely unnecessary considering that it is a lightweight frame hand cannon to begin with. And the mod of choice that I chose today, I went with Icarus. You can use things like targeting adjuster. This column is just completely up to you depending on how your playstyle is and whatever it is you're playing. Now, is Rose a hand cannon that you should be using inside of PvP? And the answer to that is not really. Does it feel good? Yes, it's a good feeling hand cannon, but it is not the best feeling hand cannon. It would be different if I went into this conversation and said, listen, this is hands down the best 150 round per minute hand cannon in terms of feel, in terms of consistency, but after playing with previous God rolled spare rations, I would take that hand cannon every day over something like Rose. And we're not even getting into the argument of its traits and the fact that it doesn't have a final trait there in order to dip into that lethality. No, I'm just comparing hand cannon to hand cannon. Most well-rolled spare rations felt better to me than Rose does. On top of that, spare rations by default has better stats. Even though these stats are classified, we still have them data mined here, and it actually has better stats across the board. Now, the other issue is that most people don't have a spare rations or even a God rolled spare rations for that matter. And there is some players that don't have a 150 round per minute hand cannon, at least a legendary 150 in that kinetic slot. So if you are on the hunt for a 150 round per minute hand cannon for that slot, something to pair with snipers, something that is fluid, and yes, the weapon handling is really nice, it's snappy, swapping back and forth between sniper play was working really good, then Rose will satisfy all of your demands there. But like I said, guys, if you happen to have a God rolled spare rations, or if you just like to use something like Thorn or Last Word in that kinetic slot, I would definitely choose those weapons over Rose. Really unfortunate here. I'm not sure if Bungie anticipated Rose to ever even be considered a top tier weapon in PvP, but considering that it is a static rolled weapon, leaving out that final trait is probably Bungie's way of making sure Crucible doesn't get overtaken by this weapon. It would have been cool if we had like some way to farm for random rolled roses. Well, fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.